protection of architectural heritage, and promotion of resilience against the negative impacts of climate change. Go to our website, www.nidclf.org, or if you would like to make a donation, contact us by email at nidclf@gmail.com. Nature Island Dominica Civil Liberties Foundation, Inc., NIDCLIF, working to help unify and build Dominica and our Afro-Caribbean and Kalinago brothers and sisters at home and abroad. NIDCLIF, fighting to save our Nature Island, Dominica.
Brother, what a price I pay.
103 is the afternoon time.
Brother, what a price I pay.
If you are in front of the computer this time, I wanted to make reference to NIDCLIF, www.nidclf.
What a price I paid. He stole my history, destroyed my culture, cut out my tongue, so I can't.
Again, I just want to make reference to NIDCLF. So it's www.nidclf.org. If you want to make a donation to that cause, feel free to do so. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Sheridan, Gregoire, and of course, we have Mr. Irvin Andre, His Lordship Irvin Andre joining us this afternoon there. Sheridan, Mr. Gregoire, guide us through this special program this afternoon.
Matt, thanks a lot, and very delighted to be here with Dr. Irvin Andre. As usual, it is an illustrious son of the soil. Matt, we're here to simply do something. We've been talking about it and running a few ads on NIDCLIF for a while. And for those people who do not know, so there are a number of members of the board who will, for the next 3 or 4 Wednesdays, we'll come on with you for half hour every Wednesday afternoon from 1 to 1:30, just to create the awareness of the organization. So Dominicans at home and abroad will know a lot more about NIDCLIF. And Dr. Andre, of course, is a prominent member of the board. And so we will be trying our best to give as much information as we can. So essentially, as you said, the NIDCLIF website is nidclf.org. So we'd advise anyone now to log in right now to www.nidclf.org. Work with us through the half hour so you'll understand the website, how to navigate it, how to get all the information about it, and essentially what it stands for. Let me just start off, Matt, just before Dr. Andre comes in. Let me just start off by saying that really NIDCLIF is encouraging people to stand up for their rights and to speak truth to power. So NIDCLIF stands to speak it stands up to power by fighting against rights violations, abuse of police powers, inequality, victimization, and discrimination. And NIDCLIF stands for freedom, equality, and a better future for Dominicans at home and abroad. As we go along after Dr. Andres, I'll give you the mission statement and the goals and objectives and so on of NIDCLIF, so our listeners and our viewers can get a better understanding of what NIDCLIF is all about.
I'm saying good afternoon to Dr. Irvin Andre at this time.
Good afternoon, Matt, and you promoted me a little earlier by referring to me as a lordship. Actually, just coincidentally, I was speaking to somebody about Bishop Malzai, and the person said, boy, you look just like the bishop. So that is probably why you made a mistake by referring to me as your lordship.
You might consider that.
You for that mistake.
You might want to consider that, right?
He looks like a man of the cloth, right?
You never know these days. Do you want me to continue talking? Or?
Of course, continue talking. Yeah. Continue talking.
Again, Mr. G will tell you all you need to know about NIDCLIF. The fact of the matter is Dominica is at a serious juncture in its history where there is, on many fronts, a serious erosion of rights of citizens and so on, some of the most vulnerable. I mean, we highlighted two, one in particular, related to what transpired on the eve of the last general elections, when a whole village was tear gassed while they slept throughout the night without any discrimination, without any discrimination based on age, based on whether you were ill or not, or otherwise, whether you were involved in any type of protest action and so on. And the villagers have banded together and decided to launch a class action lawsuit against the authorities for that capricious island. And you remember that the perpetrators of that indignity were members of the original force, and perhaps including some members of the local constabulary. And the fact of the matter is that why should that go unchallenged? It didn't happen in Guyana. Guyana faced worst economic, I almost said tribal, but worst unrest during the last general elections. The president refused to budge even after he lost the elections. Did the regional or the head of the regional force or the security force or the OECS government send any forces to Guyana? Jamaica, every election cycle, face a persistent spate of violence, which results in a number of deaths. Has the regional force ever considered sending a force to ensure peace in Jamaica or in Trinidad or in any other islands? It is no wonder that the people from Salisbury might be saying, La Baye, La Ba, Befla Kasote. Now, Mr. G, somebody told me that means the cow jumped over the moon, but I don't think it does. It means that the most vulnerable are those who are subjected to capricious conduct from the state. And the fact of the matter is, what are we doing to assist? I can tell you that there is precedent, Mr. Peltier, for the state to assist persons who have been aggrieved or who have been victimized. I can tell you that in many countries, you have legal clinics designated to represent persons who historically have been prosecuted, whether on account of race or on account of gender, sexual orientation. And it is within that context that NIDCLIF hopefully can help to assist the litigants, those litigants from Salisbury who were seeking to mount a legal challenge to what happened to them. Because the fact of the matter is, if it goes unchallenged, it will happen again. So that is the first justification for the efforts being made by NIDCLIF to raise funds to assist the Salisbury people to have effective representation in seeking redress for what happened to them. And there's obviously the other matter with respect to the monies which never found their way into the consolidated fund. The Constitution is clear. All revenues of the state has to be deposited into the consolidated fund. And no amount of chicanery, no amount of sophistry can hide the fact that the proceeds of sales of Dominican passports, note the word please, Dominican passports, not passports from Lac Set Lang, but Dominican passports, the proceeds of sale should be deposited into the consolidated fund. This is not some product being manufactured by a private entity. And it's outrageous that based on the evidence that has been presented, the vast majority of those net proceeds of sale do not find themselves deposited into the consolidated fund. There's legal precedent to challenge that kind of state of affairs. And if Dominicans on the whole cannot mount a legal challenge of that, then the question is, what are they prepared to challenge? What are you prepared to stand for if you cannot protect the purse of your country? And this is even more significant given the timing. We've just been buffeted by the effects of COVID-19. We've been buffeted by the effects of Hurricane Maria. There are folks who still haven't been able to repair their homes. We, unlike virtually every other English-speaking Caribbean, we did not receive a cent in terms of assistance. Even after an international organization gave the authorities approximately $30 million for COVID-19 relief. The Dominican people didn't deserve not a cent, except some who got paper bags before the cock crowed at dawn. There were paper bags jumping their way all over the country, brought in the middle of the night. And the majority of Dominicans, particularly, well, not the majority, but the majority of those who have been identified as not having an affinity to red, did not receive a dime. When, according to the Al Jazeera expose a few years ago, much of that fund is hidden in mysterious accounts all over Europe, all over the world. So this is something which goes to the very heart of Dominica's existence as a democratic country. My understanding is that the legal groundwork has already been done. But as we can appreciate, this will be a costly enterprise. And the question is, are we prepared to assist in that endeavor? Because it's so important to our existence as a democratic state.
Question, Justice Andre, how soon, if any, will this become a reality?
Well, I can tell you, we've already started collecting money. There are initiatives taken in the states to ensure that that the organization attains its tax status to receive donations from NGOs, from international organizations, and so on. And because we think it's very much important and it's imperative, it's of paramount importance that these things do not go unchallenged. We are quite aware of the fact that the court process is rather tardy. It has the pace of a Tululu crab. Well, actually, that's not even that fast, to be quite frank with you. But the question is, if it is not challenged, then what gives? Anything goes? Everything goes? There is no distinction between public money and private money. It is meshed into one pot as if it's a callaloo that you're making. No, we have to maintain the integrity of state revenues. And that is why it is significant. We have to ensure that the revenues of the state is used for the benefit of the people of Dominica, rather than from individuals who publicly proclaim, that somehow they have an entitlement to this money. But the people of Dominica have no entitlement. Only in Dominica, and we should seek to reverse that. And that's why it's important. We should do everything we can. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that this is the only avenue to challenge the misuse of authority in Dominica, but it's an important avenue. And we cannot forsake it, despite any misgivings we may have about the pace of justice in Dominica. We must
Andre, thank you very much, Andre. Let's go back to Mr. Sheridan Gregoire, but before we do, let's do this and we'll come back. Stick around.
Something whispers in my ear and says, you're not alone.
Nature Island Dominica Civil Liberties Foundation, Inc., NIDCLIF, uniting our Kalinago and Afro-Caribbean nature islanders and friends of Dominica at home and abroad, coming together to help preserve the integrity of Dominica's democracy, human rights, and civil liberties, ensuring free, fair, and competitive elections on a level playing field within a system that guarantees freedom of expression, belief and association, respect for the inalienable rights of individuals and minorities, respect for the rule of law, for free communications media, and free from psychological, mental, and physical abuse of women, minors, the elderly, and young men. Meantime, the people of Salisbury were tear gassed and shot at while they slept the night before the general election in December 2019 by local law enforcement aided and abetted by regional security forces. Patriots appear ready to take the biggest step to fight this cancer that is ravaging every organ of good governance in Dominica. Patriots appear ready to join the legal fight to have the highest court in the region decide once and for all if Dominica should continue to operate as a rogue state where the state's coffers may be starved while secretive accounts in unknown places are filled to the brim with taxpayers' money. NIDCLIF, join the fight to save Dominica from this malevolent cancer. Make your contribution, however modest, to support the legal challenge to account for Dominica's millions. The law is on your side. Every patriot should be on your side. NIDCLIF, support our radiothon, fundraising events, subscriptions, GoFundMe, and other initiatives to help raise funds to support a legal challenge against the siphoning of public funds from the Consolidated Fund and other initiatives and actions. NIDCLIF, Nature Island Dominica Civil Liberties Foundation, Inc., working to help unify and build Dominica and our Afro-Caribbean and Kalinago brothers and sisters at home and abroad. NIDCLIF, fighting to save our nature island, Dominica.
Always in my heart, for you are not alone.
I'm happy, very happy to hear from George Irvin Andre. But Mr. G, in Dominica, we like to talk. We love to talk. And I need to know a little more about the mission statement for this to become a reality because, it's a great initiative. Let me get back to you, Mr. Sheridan Gregoire.
Yes, well, Mark, let me just say right off the bat, and it looks like you may have to give us a little bit over half an hour this afternoon because I suspect you have a lot of questions to ask us, and then I'm pretty sure you'll want to take a few calls from for your many listeners. But Matt, the vision of NIDCLIF, right? I mean, is for a free and just society in which equality of opportunity reigns, while really fostering the sustainable democracy, human rights, and civil liberties on the island. The mission is, of course, to consolidate the gains that we've already made in our democratic society, in our democracy, right? And to preserve our human rights and of all of Dominicans by promoting the rule of law, because we believe in the rule of law, good governance, and fair administration of justice through advocacy, education, information, and the exposure of abuse. It's always important to expose any form of abuse. So the goal, therefore, is to assist and to support all efforts and initiatives that are geared at preserving democracy, human rights, and civil liberties in Dominica. And our immediate objective, of course, Dr. Andre was telling you a couple of them, is to provide advocacy, education, information, and to raise funds to help ensure that appropriate legal defense counsel is available to fight against corruption and against violations of democracy and human rights and civil liberties in Dominica. So that just gives you a sense, Matt, of where we are in terms of what NIDCLIF really stands for. In terms of the people who are involved, and I can tell you there's some good people involved and volunteering to do their best to make this happen and to help. Some of the people involved, myself, I'm the president of the organization. Dr. Simone Matthew is the vice president, and Dr. Dion George is the treasurer. Dr. Irvin Andre is a board member, and so is former Ambassador Crispin Gregoire. And Mr. Gabriel Christian, Attorney Gabriel Christian, is also a board member. Then Mr. RSV Senior Nicholas George is also a member, as well as CSM retired CSM Sergeant Ralph Alcindor. He's a board member. And then, of course, we have working committees and so on. But essentially, all these people are dedicating and volunteering their time in order to make this thing happen. And Dr. Andre, I believe, will be able to continue to tell you some of the things that we're doing. One of the initiatives that we've already taken, this NIDCLIF is registered in the state of Georgia in the United States. And so we've applied to the state of Georgia for a 501c3 status, which is a tax-exempt status. So if we went to a corporation and asked for some contribution, then if they gave us money, they would be entitled to receive a tax refund for that. And anybody, in fact, in the United States who goes to our website, the people who go to our website and make a donation, a contribution, whether it's to subscription or whether it's a once-off or whatever it is, they would be entitled to receive a rebate when they do their tax returns next year. So essentially, this is what we are setting up here. So we're looking forward to receiving this very soon. And hopefully, I mean, people can go on the website right now, make a donation. they will get automatically a receipt will be generated. So they will have that receipt, which they can then present when they're making they're filing their tax returns. And then we would get a receipt. Also, we would know exactly who are the people who are making those donations. So we'll be able to keep a track of the persons who are making those donations. So essentially, this is what is happening up to now, man.
All right, so let's go back to Dr. Andre, but again, let's do this and come back. Come back after this.
Something whispers in my ear and says that you are not alone.
Nature Island Dominica Civil Liberties Foundation, Inc., NIDCLIF, uniting our Kalinago and Afro-Caribbean nature islanders and friends of Dominica at home and abroad, coming together to help preserve the integrity of Dominica's democracy, human rights, and civil liberties, ensuring free, fair, and competitive elections on a level playing field within a system that guarantees freedom of expression, belief and association, respect for the inalienable rights of individuals and minorities, respect for the rule of law, for free communications media, and free from psychological, mental, and physical abuse of women, minors, the elderly, and young men. Our cherished island, the Isle of Beauty and Isle of Splendor, faces a crisis more serious than the COVID-19 pandemic or Omicron in its most contagious form. This crisis has compromised every institution of good governance. It has spread so rapidly that the Isle of Beauty is no longer rich and rare. Rather, Dominica has been brought to its knees by the actions of a few players who have abandoned the sacred and cherished value of our national anthem. All for each, and each for all. NIDCLIF would like to help reverse this trend with your support. Go to our website at www.nidclf.org if you would like to make a donation, or contact us at nidclf@gmail.com. Support our radiothon, fundraising events, subscriptions, GoFundMe, and other initiatives to help raise funds to launch a legal challenge against the siphoning of public funds from the Consolidated Fund and other such initiatives and actions. Nature Island Dominica Civil Liberties Foundation, Inc., NIDCLIF, working to help unify and build Dominica and our Afro-Caribbean and Kalinago brothers and sisters at home and abroad. NIDCLIF, fighting to save our nature island, Dominica.
I am here with you. Those apart.
And if you need to make a call to ask Mr. Gregoire or Irvin Andre a question, feel free to do so at this time. So, Irvin, where do we go from here? I mean, this was the formal introduction, if you will. Where do we go from here?
Well, again, we have to ensure that civic-minded individuals, persons concerned with the future of the country, persons who have an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong, will decide that, look, we have to make whatever modest contribution we can to try to set the ship of state, set it back afloat, as opposed to doing nothing while it makes its way to some great calamity, some great type of destruction, and so on. We have that duty. Every day there's news of some new information that we knew nothing about, whether it's the bombing of a ship carrying the Dominican flag in the Ukraine, whether it's related to some new association with Morocco without the knowledge of anyone.
Before you go on, George, there's a call on the line. Let's see if we can get that call. Are you there, caller?
Mr. Peltier, blessings to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, blessings.
Mr. G and Dr. Andre, blessings to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I need some information, but first I want to tell Dr. Andre, I'll reporting him to Arundel because I think Arundel have a genuine Dominican passport, not a Lapousset passport. Mr. G, I hear you talk about website. I'm illiterate when it comes to going on website and all these things. There, can you please tell me another medium or avenue where I could access if I decide to contribute? Thanks.
All right. Well, one of the things you can do, you can contact us directly. I mean, we work with the website because essentially it's universal. So people everywhere can just go in there wherever you are and make a contribution. It goes in right away. They get a receipt right away so that they know they've made a contribution. They have something they can present for the tax returns. But we can always be reached at nidclf@gmail.com. And then, of course, one of our board members is in Dominica, that is Mr. Nicholas George, and we will arrange for him to liaise with anybody like yourself, Blessings, who would like to make a contribution. We'll arrange for Mr. George to be available, and we'll put that contact out, and he can tell people what bank account that they can make a donation to right there in Dominica. So we'll make that information. This is why we're here, and I'm glad you raised that question, because why we're doing this is to create the awareness and to give the details of what it is that people can do. And we'll try to make it very easy for people to do that, because it's so important for all of us, Dominicans at home and abroad everywhere, to contribute to something like this. Because when there is a cause in Dominica, like some people in Salisbury who are grieved, who are fighting for that cause, all of us should try to come on board and help them. When there is a cause of trying to find funds that are not in the call salary, it's a lot of money that we're talking about. If that is the case, it is important for all of us, Dominicans everywhere and friends of Dominica, to come together to try to put some support behind that cause, to see it through, to make it happen. In other words, it is time for all Dominicans to get together, to unite behind some very good causes. I cannot think of any two causes that are better than those two causes right away. There are many, many more. But at the moment, those are the two priorities that NIDCLIF is looking at. So we will be giving more information as we go along. And as I indicated as well, we'll be here every Wednesday afternoon with Matt for the next 3 Wednesdays. 2 other board members will be here with Matt next Wednesday, very likely, Mr. Gabriel Christian and Mr. Ralph Alcindor. And then after that, Dr. Dion George and probably Dr. Simone, and then Mr. Gregoire and Mr. Nicholas. So every Wednesday we'll come back with Matt and we'll give further information. And we're asking people, but don't wait. You can go right from today, go to our website and to make a contribution. Now, also on May 9th, we're looking to have all of our board members and to engage the public fully in a 2-hour program, very likely on the global view, to do a radiothon. And hopefully we can alert all Dominicans between now and then that we're doing this on the 9th of May. And hopefully people can come on board and make some pledges and make some contributions on that evening. But also, Matt, we expect to be starting a GoFundMe soon. And when we do that, we'll be appealing to our audience internationally, worldwide, to get on board and help us. And we'll try to see what we can do, because these projects that Dr. Andre is mentioning, they're not cheap. And the persons who are promoting those two causes, the legal defense funds that are required, between those two is probably something like maybe $500,000. So if you're talking about $500,000 EC dollars, because each one might be about 200 to 200 and something thousand, because those cases are very likely to go all the way up to the highest court. So it's important for us to understand, if we're serious about this thing, not just talking about it, then we have to put our support fully behind it.
All right, I think we have a call on the line. Caller?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Yes.
Yes. Mr. G and Dr. Andre, I just want to tell you, I'm so thankful for what you are doing, and I really appreciate the effort. I think it's a good endeavor. But Mr. G, one of the things you perhaps left out is the PayPal. The PayPal, if persons want to contribute, they can also go to NIDCLF@gmail.com. It's NIDCLIF@gmail.com, and they can do that as well. But undoubtedly, I am very proud of the introduction. I think
that is Dr. George.
There are causes that has to be fought. And
that is Dr. George, right?
Cannot pass. It cannot pass without being challenged. And so I'm very happy. And it's not just the Salisbury cause, many other causes. And I would also like to say myself that one of our programs too is to educate and to inform. And so we'll have a series of education programs and so forth. And so Dr. Andre and Mr. Gregoire, thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm listening, and thank you very much.
All right, going to come right back there for the closing comments. We have a few more minutes. Let's do this and come back.
We gonna walk, we gonna walk.
Saturday, April 9th, a big day. The Diaspora Walks for Peace, Justice, and Prosperity. Solidarity Walk, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Gather at the Ralph Bunch Bank next to the UN headquarters and walk to the Dominican Consulate, 1st Avenue and East 42nd Street, the 7 and 6 train to Grand Central. Wear something white in solidarity with our Dominican brothers and sisters. A walk for peace, justice, and prosperity. Be there.
Lord, we gonna walk down Freedom Street.
Make home a happy place with furniture from Astafans and Company Limited. Furniture for every room, beds, closets, wardrobes, side tables, even bathroom and toilet accents and accessories. Work or study from home with a brand new computer desk and chair. Relax with living room furniture, TV stands, center tables, indoor and outdoor chairs. Any piece of custom furniture you need is also available at J. Astafans and Company Limited's Furniture Factory. Call today 255-2791 or 255-2793 and make your house a home. Astafans, right place, right price.
Hi, this is Colin XP, the Booyah Queen, and I'm here to let you know that QTS is back and it's big, unleashing unstoppable, amazing singing talents of resilient young Dominicans at home and abroad. Live on Q95, the big station. Talented youth under 14, singing in any genre and any style. Reggae, cadence, zouk, calypso, compa, soukous, soca, country, classic, gospel, and bouillon. Live on Q95, the big station. Let your children call in to Q95 and sing and have fun on QTS on the 14th from Monday, March 21st to April 16, 2022.
This is Undisputed King Hunter, inviting anyone interested in traveling to the French Antilles, in particular Guadeloupe. I urge you to hop on board the fastest and comfortable Val ferry.
Yo, this is Esteban in the building, and whenever I'm traveling to the French Antilles, especially Guadeloupe, guess who I use? Val Ferry.
C'est Val Ferry qui a fait monter et descendre comme ça.
Val Ferry?
Avec Val Ferry, c'est comme si on a un bateau de croisière. Même si l'on est mauvais, on peut voyager stable.
Attention tout le monde. Attention hucksters, businessmen and vacationers. Book your space on the #1 ferry service in Dominica, Val Ferry. Whether it's for medical attention, shopping, or visiting friends and family in the French Antilles, Val Ferry will take you there safely. Contact our Rosso office at the Gashets building opposite Payless or call at 440-3457 for more information. Val Ferry, Val Ferry, Val Ferry.
Val Ferry, la Caraïbe en toute liberté. Ou petit ça, garçon.
Mr. G, a lot of questions as we wrap it up here. A lot of questions coming forward as it relates to persons are saying, well, I'm not a computer person, I'm not an internet person. And what about Zelle or Cash App as one of the options? Yes, sir?
Right. No, Matt, I was trying to get Dr. George's attention. That was Dr. Dion George, called a moment ago, and he started explaining that you could send money direct as well through PayPal. And Zelle, if you're in the United States, because he will give you all the information when he comes on, which is basically that you can go and make a direct, just like anybody in the United States can use Zelle to transfer money from their account by just using the email address and just go send money straight to the account. So Dr. George will give us all of that information when he comes on. Maybe he'll just call us back in a minute. I hope he's listening. If he can call us back in a minute, then he can talk to that as well. Specifically as a treasurer, he is concerned with making sure that all of those things can be done and the facilities can be available. So it's easy to do that. So I hope Dr. George will just give us a call back and take his call, Matt, so he can explain. But yes, Zelle and all of that will be available when we sort out this account in Dominica, which we're working on right now through Mr. Nicholas George. We'll be able to use all those other apps as well to make funds available, to be able to facilitate your contributions right there in Dominica.
I suspect he may be back on the line. Let's see if we can get. Are you there, sir?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to the show last night, and I was very proud of the way Mr. Andre responded to a caller who did not want them to talk about the former prime ministers and so on, which was very good. Very good, Mr. Andre. Excellent.
Thank you.
And Mr. Gregoire, very proud of you as a former mixed school student. Very, very good. Keep on the good work.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
All right. Of course, I suspect we have to wrap it up in a minute here. So I'm going to get your closing comments there from George Andre as we move along. And I'm sure we'll be making contact sometime next Wednesday.
Well, again, thank you, Matt, for having me on your program, also, Mr. G, and thank you for your listeners for listening. But this is a situation where, in my view, faith and good works are engaging each other almost in a holy union. I mean, when we think about the prodigal son, we think about this guy who wasted his talents abroad and came back when he was poor and impoverished. But here's a situation, at least here's how I like to see it. The Dominicans abroad, who are oftentimes castigated for trying to control Dominica by remote control, are making or trying to make a statement that, look, we have a stake. We have to contribute part of what we have acquired. We have to contribute some of our energies to this worthy enterprise because this natural is worth saving. So it is in that spirit of giving, that spirit of care and concern, of commitment, compassion, that we stand accused of trying to assist these efforts in bringing a semblance of decency and normalcy to Dominica. We feel that the buck has to stop somewhere, and we feel that we can make a decent or modest contribution to setting things right. So those who have the same view, those who think along the same lines, again, however modest your contribution is, feel free to do it. And hopefully it will inure to the benefit of Dominica.
I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to have you on the line here for 60 seconds, sir. Any thoughts on this freedom walks going around? One is planned for New York, and we had another one today, Dr. Andre. Any quick thoughts on that?
It's fantastic. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You don't sit on the bayside drinking some fancy whiskey while things are unraveling in the country. I think we have to commend people like Arthi. In fact, I made reference to it, who has passed the biblical milestone of 10, yet he's still on the front lines. He deserves support. I applaud those folk in New York who will participate in a peaceful, not the word peace, a peaceful walk, undeterred by any message from the commissioner of the police in New York as to, Gasso, what are you doing? Ridiculous. Democracy has to have meaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, Mr. Gregoire, your final words.
Matt, here's what it is. We really would like to make the effort. And I think we talk too much about the diaspora, but the diaspora, many Dominicans at home and abroad, they want to help Dominica. Their heart is in Dominica. Here's what we're suggesting to those persons who are out there. I know they mean well and they would like to help. And these two causes are very important causes. They talk about it all the time. Now there's people in Dominica making the effort to go through the courts to get redress, and we should help them. We should support them. Here's what we can do. Whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast of the United States, whether in Arizona or Texas or Florida or Georgia or New York, Washington, Delaware, wherever you are, in Canada, the BC or Toronto, Montreal, or in London, wherever you are in Europe, with people like Alex in Switzerland, you can do something. Here's what you can do. Create a little network, maybe 10 people around you, and gather 10 people and say, listen, guys, we got to make an effort. Let's create this network of affiliates, and let us go in and every month make a contribution of $10 or $50, whatever we can do. Let's do that every month. And so we can group these networks, and they can contact us. We can include them as affiliates of the organization, And we can expand and expand these networks. Can you imagine, Matt, if you have 10,000 Dominicans who can put $10 a month? That gives you some money which you can certainly donate to this worthy cause. So it means that all of those persons who are making a small contribution, some people obviously will be able to make somewhat larger contributions if they're inclined to do that. But I mean, just the large number of people who can make a small contribution, that will help and take it a long way. Now, NIDCLIF itself will also make some efforts to go to some corporations and donor agencies that will probably try to give larger amounts, because once we have this 501c3 status, they'll be able to get back their tax refunds when they make these donations. So we are, in fact, planning to go to these organizations and agencies and corporations and ask them. But remember, it's a new organization. Sometimes new organization people ask, well, what is your track record? So it's going to take us a while to establish the name and reputation of NIDCLIF so that we can say, yes, we've been around, yes, we've been doing things. But the idea is we are going to make the effort to try to raise those funds and to provide the advocacy to organizations that can matter, that can help in those worthy causes, to ensure to shore up our democracy and our civil rights and liberties in Dominica.
Matt, if I may make one final question, one final point. It's burning. It's something that you often quote, and it goes like this. Somebody once said that the hottest place in hell, or the hottest place in my boy's kitchen, is deserved or reserved for those who, in a moment of crisis, national crisis, maintain their neutrality, or should I say, maintain their silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Andre, Mr. Sheridan, Gregoire. Thank you. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to your listeners.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, you put it up.